So we're back for a second stream of the Moscow PD documents. We're going to go through and read all of them because I did make videos on these summarizing them. So if you guys just want the summarized version, the video is already out for those. But if you guys just want to sit here, listen to have me reading you the full documents, that's what we're going to do today. Yesterday, we covered the documents that went over the crime scene, like what law enforcement saw, the interviews of some of the witnesses, for example, the surviving two roommates, and then the friends that came over to 1122 King Road because they were called by the roommates because they were so scared. Something had happened at 4 a.m. and they're like, you know what? Maybe it's not a big deal. I heard screaming. I heard some kerfuffle. I saw a guy coming in dark clothing. Maybe it was a prank. And you know what? Next morning came on and no one was awake in the house. So that was when they were concerned. They're like, hey, I think something actually really happened. Let me call these friends over and let's see, if hopefully, they're probably thinking like, hopefully it was just all in my head, but unfortunately not. Unfortunately, their worst nightmares came true, which is having 4 of their friends in the house brutally murdered by a fucking killer. So yesterday, that's what we covered. Today, we're going to go over the Brian Kohberger document. So for example, anything that mentions Brian Kohberger pertaining to his background, the reason why they think it's Brian Kohberger, some of the evidence that talks about the drive route, how he moved into Washington, which is about a 20 minutes drive from Moscow, Idaho. And essentially, I would say his downward spiral at teaching at Washington State University. He was a teaching assistant for that fall semester. He was getting his PhD in criminology, and it seemed like he was having issues with students and other professors as well. Apparently there was an altercation that he had with the professor, and there was another altercation that he had with the professor again, but I don't know if it's the same professor or was a different professor. I don't know what's going on, but we don't have the communications at this point yet. I don't know if they're ever going to release them, but it goes over, some of the teachers that had issues with him, the students, and then they're just basically how they were dealing with Brian Kohberger. And then afterwards, when they found out that Brian Kohberger was arrested and was a suspect for these brutal murders, there was some, I guess they're trying to figure out what are some risk involving having him continue being at WSU, maybe. I don't know. It was like a risk assessment that they did. So we're going to go over that. And then some of the interviews that the neighbors gave about Brian Kohberger. These are the interviews from the neighbors that live with the same complex in the Washington apartment. And then we also get to hear from his coworker. So again, I already went through a summary of all of these in a video. If you guys just want to watch the video, got the videos already out there. But if you guys just want to sit here, have me in the background while I read these documents to you guys, then hopefully, hopefully we do better than yesterday. I think if I don't read documents for a while and then I get into reading it again, it's hard to get into the flow of it. It's like, oh gosh, this is tough. I don't know. It's just how it is sometimes. 172. This is when they asked for the search warrant for Brian Kohberger's Reddit account. Now, this came out, we got this information pretty early on because when people found out that it was Brian Kohberger that could have committed these crimes, people were searching the internet for Brian Kohberger, seeing where he pops up. And there was a survey that was posted, and people were saying that it was Brian Kohberger, trying to find people to interview because, he wanted to find out how people think about, what are the factors they consider before they committed a crime, I guess. So here's a search warrant. January 24th, 2023, I applied for a warrant for the user subscriber information and the user data associated with the Reddit account of Brian Kohberger. In reviewing the contents associated with that's Brian Kohberger's email, they found that Brian Kohberger registered the account on September 24th, 2022 at 10:54 UTC time. The IP registration was redacted, which showed a location near Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. That's when he was still living with his parents' house. Here are some of the links. Again, research participation needed. These are posted in different threads. So there's felons. Is this the one that's part of it? Hold on. Because I know that they found one account, but they believe that it was not. Yeah, this is the one that they don't think was not associated with Brian Kohberger. But it's like felons, research participation needed. I make my husband want to kill himself. That's the thread there. I think prisons should be segregated. What were your struggles as a felon right after? Kids are fucking stupid. The accidents. There was accident and there's this. So I think they initially looked into this account and they realized this was not Brian Kohberger. They said that this account was registered in Florida. Brian Kohberger was incarcerated during these dates anyways, and this was believed to be a fake account. Okay. However, this is Brian Kohberger's account here. So it seems like Brian Kohberger tried to post these surveys on these Reddit threads, but they were getting flagged, and he was emailing the mods to see if they can post it and to see what was like going on. Hello, I attempted to post a survey to the Reddit subreddit prison subreddit, but the post was automatically removed. I imagine this may be due to the lack of activity on my account. As I have others post research recruitment posts on this subreddit within the past few months, would it be possible to obtain approval to submit a recruitment post to the subreddit prison? The recruitment post has my information on it, and the survey itself has an informed consent form that confirms my affiliation. I've been able to post my survey to other subreddits such as the ex-cons and felons. You can look at the specifics of my recruitment post by looking at these posts. I wonder if anyone ever reached out to him. Here's a mod saying they just approved the recent one. Again, I think he's like reaching out to other mods from other subreddits, or no, this is the same one, right? Prison. Hello, would it be possible to have a repost of my recruitment post approved for submission? I think it'd be beneficial for the recruitment effort. Thanks, Brian. So there's just a bunch of stuff here. These are the different subreddits he posted to. So research participation needed was posted to the subreddit pages of prison, felons, prison talk, prisons, and ex-cons. The following URLs. Here are the URLs here. They're probably still up, by the way. And this is what he posted for his survey. Hello, my name is Brian. I'm inviting you to participate in a research project that seeks to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. In particular, this study seeks to understand the story behind your most recent criminal offense with an emphasis on your thoughts and feelings throughout your experience. In the event that your most recent offense was not one that led to a conviction, you may still participate. Additional surveys are included after the open-ended section as to the best understand your unique traits. The study should take about 30 minutes to complete fully. Again, it's saying that research has been approved by DeSales. Research participants must be 18 years or older. You can opt out your participation anytime. If you have any questions, you can email student investigator Brian Kohberger. That's his email address right there. And he says, thanks for your time! Exclamation mark. I wonder if he just didn't get participants. I wonder if maybe no one participated, or if he didn't have any like good quality answers. And he was just like, you know what? I'll just find out myself just by committing the crimes myself. I don't know. Pretty wild. So really not too much here. Again, same thing. He's trying to post he's trying to post it in other subreddits, and he's like trying to get permission and all that stuff. Let's see. There's been some reports here. I don't really know how to read this, to be honest. I don't know if this is just like something that's just like on the page, or if this actually happened. Same thing. Brian Kohberger posting in other subreddits. It seems like someone made an account, maybe pretending to be Brian Kohberger, and they were participating in those subreddits. But they were saying that that account can't be Brian Kohberger because he was incarcerated during that time. Document number 103 covers an interview with Brian Kohberger's neighbors. These neighbors are the one that live with him in the Washington State University apartments. Interview with Brian Kohberger's neighbor, FA and AA. December 30, 2022 at approximately 6:30 hours, I stood by while a search warrant was served at Redacted, the residence of Brian Kohberger. While on the scene of the neighbors, AA, who lived in the same building, stated her husband returned home and he might have additional information to add regarding Brian. A had been interviewed earlier in the day by several FBI agents prior to F returning home. Detective Mallory and I met with A and FA in their apartment, Redacted. I recorded the conversation on my phone and informed F and A I would be recording our conversation, which they were fine with. A said that she began speaking with F about the questions she was asked. One question being if she ever had seen Brian Kohberger with anybody else. F told me they did remember a time when they returned home and said they saw Brian Kohberger sitting on the stairs leading up to his apartment next to a male. F and A described the male as having light brown skin, a sleeve tattoo on his left arm, wearing a sleeveless shirt and shorts. F said the male was riding a dark color blue or black Harley-type motorcycle. F said the motorcycle was not a sport bike and was very loud. I'm actually really surprised if there's no surveillance cameras at Brian Kohberger's apartment complex. I don't know, I just assume that's like the minimum now. F said that he and A both noticed Brian and the male talking, but said they got closer, As they got closer, both Brian and the male stopped talking and looked at them. A said Brian acknowledged them and asked how it was going. A said it seemed as if Brian was acting overly nice. A and F said that when they walked away to their apartment, Brian and the male were still silent and did not continue their conversation. F said he saw the male get up and heard the motorcycle start, but did not see him drive off. F and A said that it was the only time they ever saw this person or saw or heard the motorcycle. F and A said Brian seemed like a quiet person. They remembered meeting Brian's dad when Brian moved in. F said Brian's dad was very talkative. F and A said Brian's car was always clean and neat even on rainy days. A said that Brian would often park his car in front of their bedroom window and they would notice the headlights when he came and went. F and A did not notice when and if Brian changed the plates on the vehicle. F looked through his phone and thought on the night of the murders, he probably went to bed around midnight. F did not remember seeing lights from Brian's car or if knowing if Brian was home or not. F mentioned on another occasion seeing Brian return home at 1 o'clock hours, I'm assuming it's 1 a.m., and said that he was wearing dark clothing, had a dark colored backpack, and when they said hi to him, he seemed pretty short with them. F did not remember what day this occurred, but said it was not the night of the murders. A said she worked late hours often and would often see Brian returning home around the same time she would, around 1 o'clock to 200 hours. So I'm assuming 1 to 2 a.m. We thank F and A for their time and told them to contact us if they remembered anything else. For our conversation with F and A were recorded and is booked into DVD into MPD. This one is Brian Kohberger's, I guess, like hometown friends reaching out to see if they can talk to law enforcement. On February 22nd, 2023, I was listening to a tip line phone calls and a tip from a J.E. from Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania was left on February 16 at 6:49 hours. In the tip, J stated her brother S.E. and R.K. used to be friends with Brian Kohberger when they were in high school. J stated she felt it would be in our best interest to talk about R about B. R about B? Brian? I called J and she confirmed that her brother S and R were friends with Brian in high school and Brian had been in her mother's home during that time period. J was unsure if it was very helpful for us to talk to R but wanted us to know about this. I asked J if her brother S would talk to us as well. J told me she was not sure, but she would reach out to him to see if he would call us. I was able to locate the info on J on TLO. I used this info to find information on S and R. I will provide this information to Corporal Payne, so it'll be provided to the FBI in Pennsylvania so they can reach out to S and R for a potential interview. There's been some people that knew Brian Kohberger from the past that has done interviews with the media. I don't know if any of these people have, though. I know there's that one guy that went to school with Brian Kohberger, and then I think I remember hearing someone that was like that knew him from high school that also did an interview, but that was like a couple years ago. Oh yeah, this is Brian Kohberger's interview. Okay, so I think in the video when I did the recap, I'm pretty sure I read the interview verbatim, but I'll just read it again. I'm pretty sure I did though. So this interview with Brian Kohberger, this is when he was arrested in Pennsylvania at the end of December. December 29, 2022, Idaho State Police Detective Sergeant Gilbertson, FBI Special Agent Shirley, and I arrived in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, in prep for the service of the arrest and search warrants of Brian Kohberger and his family's residence at redacted Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. After several coordination meetings, Detective Gilbertson, S.A. Shirley, and I drove to the Pennsylvania State Police Barracks at Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, to await the arrival of Kohberger after his arrest and to interview him upon his arrival. At approximately 200 hours on December 30th, 2022, Kohberger was brought into the PSP Stroudsburg Barracks and was placed in an interview room. The interview was recorded on a built-in video system on the barracks, as well as Detective Gilbertson's pocket recorder. See, it's good to have a backup just in case, the video system goes down and like maybe the audio cuts off or something like that. It's good to have a backup. So Detective Gilbertson, like A+ for the preparation. Detective Gilbertson and I were the interviewers present. This is a summary of our interview with Kohberger and is not a verbatim transcript of the interview. A full interview transcript will be attached to this case file. Yes, I wonder if we can get it. Detective Gilbertson and I began introducing ourselves and stating which agencies we represented. When I stated who I was, Kohberger stated, "You do look familiar." Detective Gilbertson and I prepared our note-taking materials, and Detective Gilbertson read Kohberger his Miranda rights advisement. Detective Gilbertson asked Kohberger if he understood his rights, to which he replied he did. After collecting Kohberger's personal information and inquiring about any medications, Gilbertson and I began to speak to Kohberger. Gilbertson asked Kohberger about the SWAT operation at the house, to which Kohberger replied he was concerned about his parents and his dog. Gilbertson asked Kohberger if he was going to Washington State University, to which he replied he was. We made small talk with Kohberger about sports for some time, and Kohberger stated he didn't follow WSU football much, but was a baseball fan. Gilbertson asked Kohberger if he had only been at WSU for one semester. Kohberger confirmed this and said that he came to WSU with his father on July 1st. Kohberger then went on to say he was a first-year PhD student in criminal justice and criminology. Detective Gilbertson asked Kohberger what was the process to apply for a PhD. Kohberger stated he applied to 2 places, UC Irvine and WSU. Kohberger said he was going to graduate with his master's in criminal justice from DeSales and was inspired. Kohberger then asked if it was okay to engage in small talk like we were, to which we replied it was. After briefly mentioning he was strengthened by the fact his father and mother were okay, Kohberger said he applied to 2 aforementioned schools because they did not require the GRE exam. Kohberger then spoke about the GRE for a brief time and then said he was accepted by WSU. Oh, so I guess Irvine rejected him, maybe? Gilbertson then asked Kohberger what led him down the road of becoming a professor. Kohberger stated it was because he loved being in college and stated knowledge was far more important to him than money. Kohberger added WSU had a good program to study under and then said, "You guys know all about this more than likely." Kohberger then asked questions about University of Idaho and other Idaho universities before stating he didn't know much about Idaho or Washington and had not left the tri-state area much. Kohberger then returned to speaking about his focus on learning and how he thought he could obtain his doctorate's degree. Kohberger then said he recently returned home to see his family. Gilbertson then asked Kohberger about a time at DeSales University. Kohberger spoke for some time about his time at Northampton Community College and DeSales. Kohberger then spoke about how he became interested in criminal justice and stated he thought about being a police officer, but he did not want to make that commitment unless he was absolutely sure. Kohberger then continued to speak about his education and universities. Kohberger also spoke more about the process to get into the PhD program and how competitive it can be. Gilbertson then asked Kohberger about his move to Washington. Kohberger said he drove across country and wanted to challenge the driving cross country and experience it with his father. Kohberger then said that he took a different route back home with his father for Christmas break to avoid snow. Kohberger spoke about his travels and the risk of traveling in the winter. He then began to speak about the beauty of the environment and his relationship to God and a higher power. We spoke about this for some time, and he said that he was raised Christian, but was always a skeptic except when confronted with the beauty of the natural world. Gilbertson asked Kohberger if he had ever been to Pacific Northwest prior to coming to WSU, and Kohberger said he had not. I asked Kohberger if he and his father made any stops along the way to Pennsylvania. He told me he visited Colorado, but the main goal was to just drive. Kohberger then told a story about seeing an unmarked police car near the Kansas City speed up behind him, catch up to their vehicle, turn on its emergency lights, and then drive away. Kohberger thought, this was strange and was unsure why it occurred. Gilbertson then asked Kohberger about the job he mentioned. Kohberger said he was a teaching assistant. See, this is why I'm a little bit confused here. I wonder why Kohberger would lie and say that he was still a teaching assistant and that he was going to go back to the next semester and continue doing it. I don't know. Is it kind of a weird lie? I wonder if he was trying to see if the cops, I wonder if he was trying to test to see what the law enforcement already knew about him and see if they would correct him. Because by this time he was already fired, which we are going to find out in the rest of the documents. Kohberger then talked about how busy he was and how the funding package that came along with being a teaching assistant is what makes the extra work worth it. Kohberger then discussed ongoing projects with WSU PD and Pullman PD. He spoke more about how being a TA is essentially assisting the professors and the department. He stated that he did not get to assist with teaching with the exception of assisting with the office hours. Gilbertson asked Kohberger if he would be a TA again next semester, and Kohberger replied he would. He'd already been fired by this point, and he had his funding pulled from his PhD program, so what is he thinking? Kohberger then said he understood why we were engaging in small talk, but would appreciate if we explained to him what he was doing there. Gilbertson asked Kohberger why he thought we were there. He said he wanted Detective Gilbertson to tell him. Detective Gilbertson said we were there because of what occurred in Moscow, but did not provide any further detail. Gilbertson asked Kohberger if he watched the news. Kohberger said, I watched the news. Gilbertson then asked Kohberger why he thought I looked familiar. Kohberger said he wasn't sure, and stated that I had a familiar face and looked like someone he used to know. Gilbertson then said that we were there because of what happened in November, just off the University of Idaho campus. Gilbertson asked Kohberger if he knew what that was, to which Kohberger replied, of course. When prompted to elaborate, Kohberger said it was the incident we've been investigating for. How long has it been? Kohberger said there was probably several incidents and that he said he was aware of the homicide because of the WSU alert he received. Gilbertson then asked Kohberger receive the alert. Gilbertson said he wasn't sure, but he thought it was sometime the previous month. See, I feel like at this point you would just deny, like, I had nothing to do with that. I didn't do that. But he's just continuing to talk to law enforcement, not denying it, not saying anything about it. Just playing dumb. Kohberger said he wasn't sure, but thought it was sometime the previous month. Gilbertson confirmed that that was why they were there and asked if Kohberger wanted to talk about it. Kohberger replied, well, I think I would need a lawyer. Kohberger then asked if we would explain to him what we were there for specifically and added he was tired. Gilbertson again stated we were investigating the homicides of the 4 students and that we had questions and things we hoped Kohberger would help us understand. Kohberger sat back and said he had the utmost respect for law enforcement, but stated it was a constitutional right to speak to an attorney. Gilbertson affirmed this. Kohberger then re-engaged and then said the only thing he heard of from Moscow was an alert that came to his phone. Wouldn't you be denying at this point? Like, I had nothing to do with this. I had no involvement. Kohberger then said he wanted to talk to an attorney. Gilbertson said we would stop now because Kohberger wanted to speak to an attorney. Kohberger then asked where his parents were and where his dog was. Kohberger re-engaged again and asked what questions we would have for him. Gilbertson then asked Kohberger again if he understood his rights and asked specifically what Kohberger wished. Kohberger asked what specifically we wanted to talk to him about and the reason. I told Kohberger he invoked his Fifth Amendment right, and we're not going to speak with him we're not going to ask him any further questions. Kohberger asked again for the reasons he was there, but added he would like to talk to an attorney. At this point, we concluded the interview with Kohberger and left the room. I think the next documents are about Kohberger and his work as a teaching assistant. This document here is, this is his coworker. All right, that's a pretty interesting interview. Coworker. Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. I met with a WSU student, Casey maybe? Here to refer to as L in reference to this case. I was accompanied by the FBI agent Hill for this interview, as well as the FBI interpreter who was present via phone call, as L is from Redacted. This is a summary of my interview with L and is not a verbatim representation of that interview. The interview was recorded and attached to this case digitally. L was interviewed once previously with FBI agent Zahagziewski, I don't know how to pronounce that, in December of 2022. L was a former teaching assistant with Kohberger and shared an office with him for the fall semester of 2022 at WSU. I began by asking L to tell me how he met Kohberger. L stated they were both TAs for the criminology program at WSU and shared an office in Wilson Short Hall. L considered Kohberger a friend and stated that he thought Kohberger was very intelligent but also very selfish. L said Kohberger would often mislead him when it came to their shared work and would have L complete work meant for Kohberger. Lazy. L said Kohberger came to his dorm room on one occasion around the time of the homicides. L wasn't sure of the exact dates. After L asking for a ride to class, L also added Kohberger began to talk much more than usual after the homicides. L characterized Kohberger's conversations as those coming from someone who wanted to vent. L stated Kohberger attempted to use his authority as a TA to inappropriately interact with female students. I wonder if anyone, I'm sure the female students were interviewed, but maybe they weren't included in these police reports. I wonder if the interview was done by FBI, maybe, and that's why we don't have them. L stated he thought Kohberger wanted a girlfriend and added they talked about Kohberger wanting a girlfriend on many occasions. L said Kohberger told him he might lose his TA position over an issue with Dr. S. So I think this is the doctor or the teacher that he had a incident with. Imagine all the girls this guy made creeped out and feel unsafe. Well, that won't happen anymore. The only women that he's going to be talking to are the ones that are probably his family members. And I guess the hybristophiliacs are going to reach out to him. Kohberger asked L to help fight the allegations, but L stated he refused. Sorry, let's read the paragraph over. L stated Kohberger told him he might lose his TA position over an issue with Dr. S. Kohberger asked L to help fight the allegations, but L stated he refused to help Kohberger. What were the allegations? L characterized Kohberger as a dishonest person. To support this, L stated he spoke to Kohberger in late December of 2022, and Kohberger said he was wearing his bags to catch a flight back to Pennsylvania. L later learned Kohberger had been back in Pennsylvania for some time and drove back with his father. L then told us about some injuries he witnessed on Kohberger's face and hands. L was unsure of the date, but he said he thought he noticed injuries on 2 separate occasions in October and November 2022. L stated one injury was like a large scratch on Kohberger's face, which L described as looking like scratches from fingernails. L said he also saw wounds to Kohberger's knuckles on 2 separate occasions. When L asked Kohberger about what happened to him, Kohberger replied he had been in a car accident. L also stated Kohberger was frequently 20 minutes late to their classes. I asked L what he and Kohberger would talk about. L said Kohberger liked to discuss this area of study, which was criminal decision-making and burglary-type crimes. I feel like we also heard in a different interview where it was a student that mentioned that Brian Kohberger was late 20 minutes to that class too. Oh, I think it was the was it the Amazon episode? I think it was the Amazon episode where the girl realized that there's pictures of her on wait, was that hold on a second. Or am I thinking of something else? Oh my god, there's so many different ones. I get them all confused. But I could have sworn there's a student that of Brian Kohberger's that did an interview and talked about how he would also be late to the classes. Okay, so this is all the information that are getting from WSU. So law enforcement, they got files containing the records of Brian Kohberger's teaching assistantship termination. So he was terminated. Seems like no questions about that. His parking records and his housing records. They also received information about the installment of 4 containing correspondence between Professor and Kohberger, with Kohberger and Professor DM, and correspondence between Kohberger and Professor CH. They also had Kohberger's Cougar Health records. They got documents pertaining to his application for the WSU PD internship. The documents were provided to me by a member of the interview panel for the internship. And that person, I think, did an interview on one of the documentaries. There's a file that contains student schedules for Kohberger and chat logs from Microsoft Teams. Several grading rubrics and written assignments completed by Kohberger during his time at WSU. I think he was fired beginning of December. I feel like he was arrested at the end of December. I don't know. I feel like they would have reached out to him pretty quickly. You think it took some time before they reached out to him? There was also some WSU records. The file contains several screenshots of text conversations between the professors referencing Kohberger, as well as meeting minutes from a meeting between Kohberger and W on August 19. One of the screenshots shows a conversation between someone titled M in the text window and an unknown person. The first message from M reads, "Do you want to take Kohberger? He listed you and A as people he was interested in working with." The other person replied, "If I must, ... Another screenshot for the message thread from M on September 14 reads, "A tells me we need to do intervention on Kohberger." So we're like not even September 14. We're still pretty early on in the semester. She's going to try to gather information, but apparently he's offended several of our female students. Assuming we get some details, how do you want to handle this? The reply reads, "Let's see when we have more info." There are 2 more text thread screenshots, the meeting notes, and a self-evaluation form completed by Kohberger in the files. It was a snail mail letter. It has to be documented like that the official has been notified. They got wind of it, I believe. They got wind of... Wait, sorry. You're talking about like after when he was arrested? Because I feel like something like that, if you're being fired, it would be like you would get HR involved and they would have a sit down and talk to you and be like, "Hey, sorry, like, but you've been terminated. You're not coming back next semester as a TA. You could be here as a student, but as a TA, like, you already cut off." There's another document that had 184 pages, and another one that had 262 pages. The files contain several scanned pages of email correspondence, class assignments, mentor assignments, and other miscellaneous documents. Of note, there are several emails in the files which discuss Kohberger's specific issues which led him to be terminated from the TA program and losing his funding for the PhD program. There was also documents from Kohberger's courses, his teaching assistant documents, text messages, there were some email chains. They got files containing email correspondence, which appeared to be from after Kohberger's arrest. So they did a risk assessment for Brian Kohberger. In addition, there is a risk assessment file, which contains several pages of results of WSU risk assessment for Kohberger after his arrest. So I just assumed this was like, in terms of like whether or not they're going to keep him as a student. But I guess it could be interpreted as keeping him as a TA. No, I mean, he already had this history, and the termination came only when he became a suspect. He wasn't a free man long enough to. I thought he got terminated before. Oh, so you're saying that you think that he got terminated after he became a suspect? I thought he got terminated before. I thought he got terminated before because of the harassment with the students, and then also the altercation that he had with the professor. Wait, where did I remember seeing that? Hold on. Oh, that was laid up by a timeline by another journalist. You know who that journalist was? Let me think. Hold on. I feel like there was a. Oh shit! All right, guys, we're going on a little side quest right now. Because I'm thinking, why did I think that he was fired before? Oh, here it is. News Nation. September 23rd, there was an altercation with a professor. October 3rd, there was a meeting to discuss his professional behavior. October 21st, there was an email to discuss failure to meet expectations. November 2nd, there was a meeting for an improvement plan. December 7th, there was a meeting improvement plan progress to see how he was doing. However, 2 days afterwards, there was a second altercation with the professor. And then he was terminated on December 19. So I guess by December 19, he was already, he was already in Pennsylvania at that point. Because he did the road trip like a week before that. Okay, so he was already terminated, but he was already in Pennsylvania. But couldn't they alert you via email? A phone call? Like, I feel like there has to be a phone call. We're like, hey, Brian, like, we've been working on your improvement plan for the past 2 months, and there just has been no improvement. There's been this altercation. We're going to have to terminate you. I don't know. This is from News Nation. And this was included in the recent documentary. Okay. All right. So I wanted to find in my notes. Once I like honed on to something, I want to see it in my notes to see like where the hell is getting this from. Okay. Not sure. I think maybe someone on Tony Bruce's podcast. I have memory problems. There's plausible deniability. You can prove the reason. No, I'm wrong. I just looked it up. He was fired on the 19th, but this was after the murders. I'm suggesting they got wind that he was a suspect. And the termination was a damage control. Yeah, because I think they had already terminated him, but then they did the risk assessment to see if whether or not they probably wanted to keep him as a student. Have him registered as a student next semester in case he was able to get out on bail, even though he was, there's no bond for him. Okay. Sorry, I needed to know where I had that idea from. I needed to find in my notes anyways. There's another file that contains a writing sample written by Brian Kohberger, and then various email correspondence and team notes. 219. Oh, this is the last one. Last one. Upon review, the installment contained numerous assignments submitted by Kohberger, as well as correspondence between him and the students in the courses. I also got an email from S on July 19, 2023, stating installment 15. It would be the last installment received references case. Murdoch was a wild one. It was. Dude, the trial was fucking crazy. Lots of like little mini twists and turns. And then him having feeling like he was forced to testify. Dude, crazy. But there's still some more drama with Murdoch. That one's not done yet because Courthouse Becky, she got arrested. They arrested Courthouse Becky for what she did and for her involvement with the tampering shit. So I don't know what that's going to do for Murdoch's case. We're going to read in these documents that Brian Kohberger actually considered going to UC Irvine. And I was like, dude, UC Irvine? UC Irvine is nearby me. It's crazy. He could have been at UC Irvine or, he decided to go to WSU, but UC Irvine. Whew. He could have been near me. I think this is the 7-page document where they essentially talk about Brian Kohberger being the suspect. They talk about the surveillance. I think a little bit about the phone. And what else was there? Kohberger information and cell phone search warrants number 157. So this is supplement 136. I guess what I should do is I should tell you guys which document numbers these are in case you guys want to pull it up and read it yourself as well. All these documents that I'm reading right now are free. They're available. Moscow PD released a bunch of documents and they are all out on their website. So you don't have to pay for these or anything like that. I know, right? It's wild UCI. I'm like, oh, that's pretty close to me. Oh boy. Narrative. As a part of the investigation, an extensive search, commonly referred to in law enforcement as video canvass, was conducted in the area of the King Road residence. This video canvas, wait, why is canvas spelled with 2 S's? It's not spelled like that, right? Canvas? I think am I tripping? I don't think it's spelled like that. Or is that the plural way of spelling it? It's canvas with one S, right? This video canvas was to obtain any footage from the early morning hours of November 13, 2022. Wow, I can't believe it's 2025. It's already been almost 3 years. In an area of the King Road residence and surrounding neighborhoods in an effort to locate the suspects or suspect vehicles traveling or leaving from King Road residence. This video canvas resulted in the collection of numerous surveillance videos in the area from both residential and business addresses. I've reviewed numerous videos that were collected and have had conversations with other MPD officers. Again, MPD is Moscow Police Department, ISP Detective, Idaho State Police, FBI agents that are similarly reviewing footage that was obtained. A review of the camera footage indicated that a white sedan, hereafter suspect vehicle number 1, was observed traveling westbound in the redacted block of Indian Hills Drive in Moscow at approximately 3:26 a.m. and westbound on Steiner Avenue at Idaho State Highway 95 in Moscow at approximately 3:28 a.m. On this video, it appears suspect vehicle 1 was not displaying a front license plate, nor did it appear the vehicle had fog lights on the lower portion of the front bumper based off the video obtained from that redacted. This was the video which captured suspect vehicle 1 crossing South Main Street from Steiner Avenue to Lauder Avenue at approximately 3:28 p.m. Now, the videos aren't available to the public yet, but if you guys watch the documentary that came out, which one was it that had like a bunch of like leaked shit? Oh, the Dateline one. If you guys watch the Dateline doc, I don't know where you can watch it. Maybe it's available on Hulu. I don't know where you're supposed to be watching Dateline, but I think I watched it on Hulu. They have a lot of surveillance footage of like the suspect vehicle before the murders happened. So if you guys are curious, I don't know, you can probably watch some of the video footages on there. A review of the footage from multiple videos obtained from King Road neighborhood showed multiple sightings of suspect vehicle 1 starting at 3:29 a.m. and ending at 4:20 a.m. These sightings show suspect vehicle 1 makes an initial 3 passes by 1122 King Road residents and then leaving via Walenta Drive. Based on my experience as a patrol officer, this is a residential neighborhood with a very limited numbers of vehicles that travel in the area during the early morning hours. Upon review of the video, there are only a few cars that enter and exit this area during this time frame. Suspect vehicle 1 can be seen entering an area the fourth time at approximately 4:04 a.m. This is before the murders. It can be seen driving eastbound on King Road, stopping and turning around in front of redacted King Road number redacted, and then driving back westbound on King Road. When suspect vehicle 1 is in front of the King Road residence, it appears to unsuccessfully attempt to park or turn around in the road. Vehicle then continued in the intersection of the Queen Road and King Road, where it can be seen completing a 3-point turn and then driving eastbound again, Queen Road. I wonder what was Brian Kohberger doing? Unsuccessfully attempt to park or U-turn? Was he trying to park and then he realized his car didn't fit in the parking spot? Or was it like a parallel parking and he couldn't parallel park? What was going on here? Or was he planning on parking? Then he's like, oh, wait, never mind. Let me just like drive around again to make sure. I don't know. Suspect vehicle 1 is next seen departing the area of the King Road residence at approximately 4:20 a.m. So again, this is after the murders at a high rate of speed. I wonder if it's because he saw Dylan and he's like, I need to get the hell out of here. Or if he didn't see Dylan, the surviving roommate, but it was his, I guess maybe he didn't realize that there was more people living in that house. So after, murdering Kaylee and Maddie and then having to run to Zen and Ethan, I wonder if he realized, oh shit, there could be more people in this house. I need to get the hell out of here. I don't know. Because I don't know, something tells me that I don't think he saw Dylan. Based on my knowledge of the area and review of the camera footage in the neighborhood, that does not show suspect vehicle 1 during that time frame. I believe that suspect vehicle 1 likely exited the neighborhood at Palouse River Drive and Conestoga. Palouse River Drive is at the southern edge of Moscow and proceeds into Whitman County, Washington. Eventually, the road leads to Pullman, Washington. Pullman, Washington is approximately 10 miles from Moscow, Idaho. Both Pullman and Moscow are small college towns, and people commonly travel back and forth between them. Now, I think they think Brian Kohberger, instead of traveling on the main roads from Pullman to Moscow and then Moscow back to Pullman, I believe that they think that he took the back road. So instead of going like directly across, he took like some sort of like back roads all the way down here and then ended up all the way back in Pullman. Law enforcement officers provided video footage of suspect vehicle 1 to forensic examiners with the FBI that regularly utilize surveillance footage to identify year, make, model of an unknown vehicle that was observed by one or more cameras during the commission of a criminal offense. The forensic examiner has approximately 35 years law enforcement experience with 12 years at the FBI. His specific training includes identifying unique characteristics of vehicles. He uses that database that gives visual clues of vehicles across states to identify differences between vehicles. Hey, what's up, Roy? How are you doing today? Hello. Roy, thanks for joining us in the live. New subscriber. Wow, you have an amazing soothing voice. Well, that's a compliment right there. Thank you. Great channel with all the facts. Thank you. Thanks for joining us, man. In case you're wondering what we're doing today, essentially the videos that we put out, those are summaries of the Moscow PD documents. What I'm doing today in the live stream, if you want to join us, we're just reading the documents from top to bottom. So if you just want the summary, those videos are already out. If you just want me to read this to you guys, have me in the background and then you guys do your laundry or something like that. Do some gardening work. After reviewing the numerous observations of suspect vehicle 1, the forensic examiner initially believed that suspect vehicle 1 was a 2011-2013 Hyundai Elantra. However, upon further review, he indicated that it could be 2011-2016 Hyundai Elantra. Now, as a result, investigators have been reviewing information on persons in the possession of a vehicle that is a 2011-2016 white Hyundai Elantra. I don't know if it's going to be in the documents that I'm covering today, but because there is a bolo out, be on the lookout for a 2011-2013 Hyundai Elantra. The person that was working at Brian Kohberger's school, it was like a security guard or something, was going through the parking lot trying to find Hyundai Elantras. And they actually came across Brian Kohberger's, but then they were like, oh, wait, this Hyundai Elantra is a 2015, 2016. So I'm just not going to report it because it's out of the year range that law enforcement was looking for. And that's the reason why his car was never reported initially, from my understanding. I don't know if later on, if he decided to be, when they expanded the search out, I don't know if later on that was when he was like, oh, wait, actually, there is a 15, 16 Hyundai Elantra in our parking lot. His name is Brian Kohberger. So I wasn't really sure if there was ever a follow-up that, Brian Kohberger's car was in the parking lot. As a result, the investigators have been reviewing information on persons in possession of a vehicle that is a 2011-2016 white Hyundai Elantra. Investigators were giving access to video footage on the Washington State University campus located in Pullman, Washington. A review of the video indicated that approximately 2:35 a.m. on November 13th, a white sedan, which is consistent with the description of white Elantra known as Suspect Vehicle 1, was observed traveling southeast on Nevada Street in Pullman, Washington, towards SR. What does SR stand for again? Something route? SR. I forgot what SR stands for. You guys remind me. Something route, right? 270. SR 270 connects Pullman, Washington, Moscow, Idaho. This camera footage from Pullman, Washington was provided the same FBI forensic examiner. Yeah, SR in terms of like highways. I don't remember SR. It's going to be something so silly. I'm like, oh my God, how did I not know that, right? SR 270. So HWY is highway. Well, what is SR? State route. Oh, okay. State route. It could be state route. This camera footage from Pullman, Washington was provided the same FBI forensic examiner. The forensic examiner identified the vehicle observed in Pullman, Washington as being 2014-2016 Hyundai Elantra. I used to not know how now I'm going to say it weird. I used to not know how Hyundai was pronounced. I used to pronounce it Hyundai. And then I had a coworker that made fun of me. He was like, why are you saying Hyundai? I'm like, I don't know. It looks like it's pronounced that way. At approximately 5:25 a.m., a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of suspect vehicle 1, was observed on 5 cameras in Pullman, Washington, and on WSU campus cameras. Listen, my ESOL comes out sometimes, okay? My ESOL comes out. When I was younger, I used to say chicken. It wasn't until when I was in, I think, 6th or 7th grade where I said chicken and like share. And then my friends were like, what the fuck are you talking about? Do you not know how to say chicken? I'm like, what? What do you mean? And I remember it was like in gym class and we're doing like gymnastics or something like that. And then they're trying to help me and teach me to pronounce chicken properly because I would say chicken. I'm like, what's the difference? It's chicken, isn't it? The first state that recorded the white sedan was located at Redacted Johnson in Pullman. The white sedan was observed traveling northbound on Johnson Road. Johnson Road leads directly back to West Palouse River Drive in Moscow, which intersects with Conestoga. The white sedan was then observed traveling north on Bishop Boulevard and northwest on SR, State Route 270, at approximately 5:27 a.m. The white Elantra was observed on camera traveling northbound on Stadium Way at Nevada Street, Stadium Way at Grimes Way. I wonder if I should have mapped this out. Should I? I feel like there is a map around here somewhere. I wonder if it's in this document. or maybe it's in the arrest affidavit, because I remember seeing a little route that they plotted out. On November 25th, 2022, so about 2 weeks after the murders, Moscow PD asked the area law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for a white Hyundai Elantra in the area. On November 29, 2022, at approximately 12:28 a.m. Oh, I think this is when they're going to talk about the guy working at WSU. Let's see. WSU police officer Daniel Tiengo queried white Elantras registered at WSU. As a result of the query, he located a 2015 white Elantra with a Pennsylvania license plate. So this is Brian Kohberger's car. This vehicle was registered to Brian Kohberger, hereafter Kohberger, residing at Redacted, Pullman, Washington. Redacted is approximately 3/4 of a mile from the intersection of Stadium Way and Cougar Way, last camera location that picked up the white Elantra. That same day, at approximately 12:58 a.m., WSU officer Curtis Whitman was looking for white Hyundai Elantras that was located a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra at Redacted in Pullman in the parking lot. So there's two different people that found Brian Kohberger's car. Redacted is an apartment complex that houses WSU students. Officer Whitman also ran the car, and it returned to Kohberger with a Washington tag. Upon receiving this information, I reviewed Kohberger's Washington State driver's license information and photographed via driver license query for that name. This license indicates that a Kohberger is a white male with a height of 6 feet and weighs 185 pounds. Additionally, the photograph of Kohberger shows that he has bushy eyebrows. Kohberger's physical description is consistent with the description of the male DM saw inside the King Road residence on November 13th. Because I feel like they matched the DNA to his father first before they found his car. There was always like that weird timeline thing of what came first, the vehicle first, or did they identify him through his dad's DNA first? I think the state was trying to say that they identified Brian Kohberger through his car first, but I could have sworn it was through the DNA once you do a little bit of digging. I feel like in Cali, we don't use state highway Route X instead of just, yeah, it's just like 405, the 50. Yeah, like all those horrible highways. Okay, they're all horrible. I hate them all. The 10, the 20. Yep, I hate them all. I don't know. I made up the 20. I don't think the 20 is a real thing. Further investigation, including the review of Latah County Sheriff's Deputy Corporal Duke's body cam. I'm just going to see saying CPO's corporal. It's corporal, right? Duke's body cam reports showed that on August 21st, 2022, Brian Kohberger was detained as a part of a traffic stop that occurred in Moscow, Idaho by Corporal Duke. At the time, Kohberger was the sole occupant, was driving a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra with a Pennsylvania plate redacted, which was set to expire on November 30th, 2022. During the stop, which was recorded via law enforcement body cam, Kohberger provided his phone number as redacted, hereafter the 8458 phone. So this was the evidence that they were planning on using in trial. Now, the defense was trying to fight and say that, oh, we don't want this entire body cam footage to be let in because there was a part where Brian Kohberger asked law enforcement, oh, like, why do you want my phone? So that could be seen as maybe like evasive, maybe. I don't know. It could have some sort of impression on the jury. So the judge decided that, like, okay, well, we're just going to include only the portions that identifies Brian Kohberger to the vehicle, the address he was living in, how he looked like, his telephone number, and some other information about him. Investigators conducted electronic database queries and learned that the 8458 phone number is a number issued by AT&T. Boo. I think I have do I have AT&T? No, I don't have AT&T right now, but I hate AT&T. I also hate Verizon too. I need to go back to T-Mobile. Hey, Morton, how are you doing today? Hello, happy Thursday. Is it Taco? Is it Taco Tuesday? I couldn't say it. It didn't roll off the tongue correctly. I didn't think that one through. On October 14, 2022, so this is about a month over since the murders happened, Brian Kohberger was detained in part as a traffic stop by a WSU police officer. Upon review of the body cam and report of the stop, Kohberger was the sole occupant and was driving a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plate redacted. In the videos that I did summarizing the Moscow PD documents and going over them, I did include the traffic stops in there in case you guys are curious about the body cam footages. Brian Kohberger was quite talkative to law enforcement. It seems like he likes law enforcement and he wants to be on law enforcement's good side. I don't know. He was kind of like a kissy up to the law enforcement. And then he was also very inquisitive with the law enforcement as well in terms of, for example, why he was being stopped, what the law is, and what should he have done, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, sorry, you can probably just like look it up afterwards, but... October 14, 2022, Brian Kohberger was detained. I already read this paragraph. All right, next paragraph. On November 18, 2022, so this is after the murders had occurred. According to Washington State licensing, Kohberger registers a 2015 white Elantra with Washington and then later received a Washington plate. Prior to this time, the 2015 white Elantra was registered in Pennsylvania, which does not require a front license plate to be displayed. This was learned through communications with a Pennsylvania officer who is currently certified in the state of Pennsylvania. But I thought that even if your car is registered in a state where a front license plate doesn't need to be shown, I thought if you're living in a different state where it requires that, you have to comply with the state that you're living in. I thought that's how the rules worked. Maybe it's a way for you to be like, oh, I'm just visiting from Pennsylvania. Please don't give me a ticket, officer. But I could have sworn that, like, if you're in a state that requires front license plate to be displayed, you got to have your license plate to be displayed. But then, wait, how does that? I'm trying to think. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Because I used to live in an area where 3 states were really close to each other, and I feel like even if you're driving between the 3 of them, you gotta make sure you're following the rules of each state. I'm pretty sure you have to change plates. Yeah, that too. You have to change the plates and update them. Yeah, and there's usually like a time frame. I remember, Virginia. Dude, your neighbors will fucking tell on you. In Virginia, if you have let's say a Maryland car that's parked in a Virginia like parking lot, right? If you don't update your license plate, your neighbors will fucking narc on you. Okay, they'll fucking tell on you. Because I remember this happened to some of the people that I know, where your neighbors will tell on you, and then you're forced to change your Maryland license plate to a Pennsylvania one. But I forgot, why were Virginia people such dicks about that? Was there something about it? Because I know you would have to pay you would have to register your car in Virginia, and then you would pay the Virginia taxes. But I think Virginia was such a dick because, I think when you move to Virginia, you have to pay the tax for the vehicle all over again or something like that. I don't know. Maybe they just want to make sure that you're paying the tax to the state of Virginia. Anyways, based on my experience with the communication with Washington law enforcement, I know that Idaho and Washington require front and back license plates to be displayed. Investigators believe Kohberger continued to drive the white Elantra as the vehicle was captured on December 13, 2022 by a license plate reader in Loma, Colorado. At this point, I guess he was doing his drive down with his dad. Yeah, that's right, because they went from Washington and then down to Colorado, and that's where they went all the way to Pennsylvania. Vehicle was captured in December 13, 2022 by a license plate reader in Loma, Colorado. Kohberger's Elantra was inquired on December 15, 2022 by law enforcement in Hancock County, Indiana. It was later learned this query was a result of a traffic stop in Hancock County, Indiana, wherein Kohberger was the driver of the white Elantra with his father as the passenger. Kohberger was stopped again 9 minutes later in Hancock County and released without citation or further enforcement. December 16, 2022 at approximately 2:26 p.m. Surveillance video obtained by request of FBI agents in Pennsylvania showed Kohberger's Elantra in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. The only visible occupant of the vehicle was a white male whose description was consistent with Kohberger. Kohberger has a family in Albrightsville. Do you guys remember, was it ever revealed when I don't think we ever know the dates of the genetic genealogy stuff, right? I think I remember hearing when genetic genealogy stuff was like sent to like Offram Labs, and then they took it back from Offram Labs and they sent it to FBI, and then FBI did the query into the ancestry database stuff. But I don't think we ever had dates of when they were able to obtain Brian Kohberger's dad's DNA from the trash and then compare it, and then finding out that he was the father of the person who committed the crimes. I don't think we had those dates, right? So I was trying to figure out what the timeline was. Based on information provided on WSU website, Kohberger was a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University. Pursuant to records provided by the member of the interview panel for the Pullman Police Department, we learned that the fall 2022 semester was Kohberger's first semester at WSU. Additionally, these records indicated Kohberger's past education included undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics. These records also show Kohberger wrote an essay which he applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in the fall of 2022. Kohberger wrote in this essay he had an interest in assisting rural law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. Kohberger also posted a Reddit survey which can be found by an open source internet search. The The survey asked for participants to provide information to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision making when committing a crime. The documents for the Reddit stuff, I think we're going to go over in the next one. Should I jump over there? Nah, we'll continue reading this document. Hey, Shaman, how are you doing today? Hello, hello. Nevada is 30 days. I think California is also, was it 30 days maybe? 30, 60 days, 90 days? I don't remember. But I remember we didn't register for a bit. I was just like, because then you got to go to the DMV, you got to do your, for California, we had to take the driver's license test again. Not the actual driving one, but the written one. But it was so easy. I don't know. Compared to the Maryland one, I remember the Maryland one felt really tricky to me. But when I took the California one, I was like sweating. It's like, oh my God, they're going to ask me like questions with like distance, you know, how many feet you have to be apart from the stop sign and the curb and all that stuff. But I took the test and I was like, oh, this shit's easy. As a part of the investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices that utilize cellular towers in close proximity to the King Road residence on November 13 between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. Having fun as Clippy? Clippy, what's Clippy? How y'all doing? We're doing okay. How are you? Are you excited for the weekend? We are a day before Friday, so happy pre-Friday. After determining that Kohberger was associated to both the 2015 white Elantra and the 8458 phone, investigators reviewed the search warrant returns. A query of the 8458 phone in these returns did not show the 8458 phone utilizing cell tower resources in close proximity to the King Road residence between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. Well, that's because they think he either turned off his phone or maybe put it in airplane mode. Based on my training, experience, and conversation with law enforcement officers that specialize in the utilization of cell phone tower records as a part of investigations, individuals can either leave their cell phone at a different location before committing a crime or turn their cellular phone off prior to going to a location to commit a crime. This is done by subjects in an effort to avoid alerting law enforcement that a cellular device associated with them is in a particular area where crime is committed. I honestly am surprised that he just didn't just leave his cell phone at home. Why take it on the drive with you and then it all just magically loses service and then it comes back on like, you know, an hour plus later and like in the middle of like you driving somewhere, you know, like why not just leave the cell phone home? Maybe he needed the GPS navigation or something like that. I don't know. I also know that on numerous occasions, subjects will surveil an area that they intend to commit a crime prior to the date of the crime. Depending on the circumstances, this could be done a few days before or several months prior to the commission of the crime. During these types of surveillance, it is possible that an individual would not leave their cellular phone at a separate location or turn it off since they don't plan to commit a crime offense on that particular day. Oh, Clippy is a task assistant from Microsoft Windows. I saw that Clippy was replaced by Megan. Have you seen Megan yet? I watched Megan yesterday. They're talking about like, I don't know, they're making jokes about a clip, what do you call them again? Clip. Paperclip, yeah. They're making paperclip jokes. And then at the end of the movie, there was like a paperclip guy on Microsoft Windows or something. And then Megan replaced him. I think she killed him or something. On December 23rd, 2022, I applied for and was granted a search warrant for historical phone records between November 12th, 2022 at 12 and November 14 at 12 a.m. for the 8458 phone held by the phone provider AT&T. I actually like Megan 2 better than Megan 1. Megan 1, people kept hyping it and I watched it. I didn't think it was that good. I was like, oh, this is whatever. But Megan 2, I don't know. I liked it so much better. I don't think so. I have to check her out. There's an online movement with Clippy. Yeah, what's is it because of the Megan movie or is Clippy trending because of something else? Because I was really surprised that the Clippy guy was mentioned in the Megan movie. I was like, wow, I haven't heard of Clippy in like 30 years or something. I haven't seen him in so long. Approximately 24 hours preceding and following the times of the homicides. On December 23rd, 2022, pursuant to that search warrant, I received records for the 8458 phone from AT&T. These records indicated that the 8458 phone is subscribed to Brian Kohberger at an address in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. I think that's his parents' address. And the account has been open since June 23rd, 2022. These records also include the historical cell site location information for the 8458 phone. After receiving this information, I consulted with the FBI special agent that is certified member of the Cellular Analyst Survey Team. Is that Nicholas Balance? I don't think they're going to drop his name in there, but we know his name. Members of the cast are certified with the FBI to provide expert testimony in the field of historical CSLI and are required to pass extensive training that includes both written, practical examinations prior to be certified with CAS, as well as the completion of yearly certification requirements. Additionally, the FBI CAS special agent that I consulted with has over 15 years of federal law enforcement experience, which includes 6 years with the FBI. From information provided by CAS, I was able to determine the estimated locations for the 8458 phone from November 12, 2022 to November 13, 2022 of Bryan Kohberger's phone. On November 13, 2022, at approximately 2:42 a.m., the 8458 phone was utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to redacted Pullman, Washington, hereafter the Kohberger residence. At approximately 2:47 a.m., the 8458 phone stops reporting to the network, which is consistent with either the phone being in an area without cellular coverage, the connection to that network is disabled, such as putting the phone in airplane mode, or that phone is turned off. The 8458 phone does not report to the network again until approximately 4:48 a.m. So it's like either he just didn't have connection, but that would have been like, what, 2 hours with no connection? 2 hours, Ron? At which time it utilized the cellular resources that provided coverage to Idaho State Highway 95 south at Moscow, Idaho, near Blaine, Idaho, north of Genesee. I don't know how you pronounce that, Genesee. Between 4:50 a.m. and 5:26 a.m., the phone utilizes cellular resources that are consistent with the 8458 phone traveling south on Idaho State Highway 95 to Genesee, Idaho, and then traveling west towards Uniontown, Washington, and then north back into Pullman, Washington. So again, it seems like he took the long route instead of just taking the direct route between Moscow, Idaho, and Pullman, Washington. At approximately, hey, RP, how are you doing today? What's going on? Hello, how are you? At approximately 5:30 a.m., the 8458 phone is utilizing resources that provide coverage to Pullman, Washington, and consistent with the phone traveling back to the Kohberger residence. The 8458 phone movements are consistent with the movements of the white Elantra that is observed traveling north on Stadium Drive at approximately 5:27 a.m. Based on the review of the 8458 phone's estimated locations and travel, the 8458 phone's travel is consistent with that of the white Elantra. Further review indicated that the 8458 phone utilized. I wonder if, so for example, Bryan Kohberger's phone has been associated with him. Are they going to release his phone number so someone else can inherit his phone number? How do they do that? Are there just like, do the phone companies just like totally kill phone numbers? That way no one could ever have it ever again. Because imagine if you inherited Bryan Kohberger's cell phone number and then I don't know, maybe like the entire phone number was leaked out to the public and then people just like prank phone call you, even though they know you're not Bryan Kohberger, but yeah. Is this when he was stargazing? Yeah, I think that was his alibi, that he was stargazing. There's actually a weather report that they did where they were trying to figure out what the weather was like on that night. And they're like, oh, well, it seems like it would have been way too hazy for you to see any stars on that particular day. That was actually in the Moscow PD documents. Further review of the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources on the November 13, 2022 that are consistent with the 8458 phone leaving the area of the Kohberger residence at approximately 9 a.m. So this is when people are, I guess, assuming that maybe this is when Bryan Kohberger realizes that he left the knife sheath behind and possibly was trying to go back there and get the knife sheath back from the crime scene. When I first heard about Bryan Kohberger maybe revisiting the crime scene again, I just thought it was because he just went back there to see law enforcement responding to the scene, like, oh yeah, like that's what I did, you know, look at all this law enforcement responding to the scene, just to see like the results of his actions. But now that there was a documentary that came out and I was thinking about it, I was like, oh yeah, wait, actually, maybe he did go back to get the knife sheath. But maybe he decided not to because it's a little too risky. It's daytime, there's cameras, people could have been awake. Specifically, the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that would provide the coverage to the King Road residence between 9:12 and 9:21 a.m. The 8458 phone next utilized cellular resources that are consistent with the 8458 phone traveling back to the area of the Kohberger residence and arriving to the area at approximately 9:32 a.m. Investigators found that the 8458 phone did connect to the cell phone tower that provides service in Moscow on November 14, 2022, but investigators do not believe the 8458 phone was in Moscow on that date. The 8458 phone has not connected to any towers that provide service in Moscow since that date. Investigators found it connected to the cell towers that provides the service to Moscow. Oh, this is the day afterwards. day afterwards. Okay, but they don't believe that he actually went to that area. Based on my training experience and the facts of the investigation so far, I believe Kohberger, the user of the 8458 phone, was likely the driver of the white Elantra, which was observed departing Pullman, Washington, and that this vehicle is likely suspect vehicle number 1. Additionally, the route of travel of the 8458 phone during the early mornings of November 13, 2022, and the lack of the 8458 phone reporting to AT&T between 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m., aka the stargazing times, is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide that occurred on the King Road residence. Kohberger would likely have information on how cellular data can be utilized in criminal investigations as a part of his past studies. On December 23, 2022, I was granted a search warrant for Kohberger's historical Cell Service Location Information, CSLI, from June 23, 2022 to current. Prospective location information and a pen register / trap and trace on the 8458 phone to aid in efforts to determine if Kohberger stalked any of the victims in the case prior to the offense, conducted surveillance on the King Road residence, was in contact with any of the victims' associates before or after the alleged offense. Any locations that may contain evidence of the murders that occurred on November 13, 2022, the location of the white Elantra registered to Kohberger, as well as the location of Kohberger. December 23, 2022. Pursuant to that search warrant, I received historical records for the 8458 phone from the AT&T from the time the account was opened in June 2022. After consulting with the CAS special agent, I was able to determine estimated locations for the 8458 phone from June 2022 to present, the time period authorized by the court. Brian Kohberger moved into the Washington apartment with his dad's help around, I think it was at the end of June 2022. It was like June 23rd or June 20th or something like that. The records for the 8458 phone show the 8458 phone utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to the area of 1122 King Road on at least 12 occasions prior to November 13, 2022. All of these locations, except for one, occurred in the late evening and early morning hours of their respective days. Gotta get a water break in. One of these occasions, on August 21st, 2022, the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources covering coverage to the King Road residence from approximately 10:34 p.m. to 11:35 p.m. At approximately 11:37 p.m., Kohberger was stopped by Latah County Sheriff's Deputy Corporal Duke, as mentioned above. The 8548 phone was utilizing cellular resources consistent with the location of the traffic stop during this time, Farm Road and Pullman Highway. So was he just driving around? Was he trying to scope it out? Was he trying to head to the 1122 King Road house? We don't know. Further analysis of the cellular data provided showed the 8458 phone utilized the cellular resources on November 13, consistent with the 8458 phone traveling from Pullman, Washington to Lewiston, Idaho, via U.S. Highway 191. At approximately 12:36 p.m., the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that would provide coverage to Kate's Cup of Joe coffee stand located at redacted Clarkson, Washington. Oh, that's right, because he was in Clarkson driving around. I think he went to by a coffee shop. He went to Albertson, and it was like a donut shop or something. I don't remember, something like that. Surveillance footage of the U.S. Chef store located at redacted Clarkson, Washington, adjacent to Kate's Cup of Joe, showed a white Elantra consistent with suspect vehicle 1 drive past Kate's Cup of Joe at the time, consistent with the cellular data from 8548. At approximately 12:46 p.m., the 8458 phone then utilized cellular data in the area of the Albertsons grocery store at redacted in Clarkson, Washington. Surveillance footage obtained from Albertson showed Kohberger exit the white Elantra, consistent with the suspect vehicle 1, at approximately 12:49 p.m. Interior surveillance cameras show Kohberger walk through the store, purchase unknown items at the checkout, and then leave at approximately 1:04 p.m. Kohberger's possible path of travel is depicted below, not the scale. Additional analysis of the records for the 8458 phone indicated between approximately 5:32 p.m. and 5:36 p.m., the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage to Johnson, Washington. The 8458 phone then stops reporting to the network from approximately 5:36 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. That is consistent with the phone being in the area of the 8458 phone traveled in the hours immediately following the suspected time the homicide occurred. I wonder if this is the time frame where he put his phone back on airplane mode and then discarded the weapon during this 3-hour time frame where he's not reporting to any of the network. Did his phone die? Hey, what's up, Brian? How are you doing today? On December 27, 2022, Pennsylvania agents recovered the trash from the Kohberger family residence. Oh, was it December 27th? I thought it was before that. December 27. So December 27th is when they got the trash. Okay. I must have just forgot. December 27 was when they got the trash, but December 23rd was when they got the search warrant for the Kohberger's cell phone. I'm confused on the timeline. Huh. December 27, 2022, Pennsylvania agents recovered the trash. Let me highlight this actually. Because now I kind of want to see the search warrant, the December 23rd search warrant. I don't know. Have I seen the December 23rd search warrant? I feel like I've seen so many search warrants on this case that I might have just like not looked at the dates. Interesting. Because I thought they had the DNA before. Huh. December 27, okay. Pennsylvania agents recovered the trash from the Kohberger family residence located in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. So I wonder if the timeline that the state gave was real. I don't know. I like half didn't believe it. That they pinpoint Brian Kohberger because of the vehicle. And then the DNA thing was also happening in tandem as well. But the vehicle is what kicked off to them thinking it was Brian Kohberger. And then that's how they got the cell phone search warrant. And then 4 days after that, they recovered the trash from Kohberger's family. Huh. That's also another theory too, that he could have just disposed the weapon during his drive back home with his dad. But I felt like, why hang on to the weapon for so long, right? You would just want to discard it ASAP. On December 27, 2022, Pennsylvania agents recovered the trash from Kohberger's family residence located in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. That evidence was sent to the Idaho State Lab for testing. December 28, 2022, the Idaho State Lab reported that a DNA profile obtained from the trash and the DNA profile obtained from the sheath identified a male as not being excluded as the biological father of the suspect profile. I wonder, when did they get the IgG? Because maybe that's the date that we don't have. The date that they got the IgG stuff, like matching it to the Kohberger family tree. I don't think we have that date. At least 99.9998% of the male population would be expected to be excluded from the possibility of being the suspect's biological father. Based on the information, I request an arrest warrant to be issued for Brian C. Kohberger, that's his birth date, for the burglary at 1122 King Street, Moscow, Idaho, and for the 4 counts of murder in the first degree for the murders of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. So that is the first document, supplement number 136. All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much it for the Brian Kohberger documents I was planning on covering today. We covered Brian Kohberger's police interview in Pennsylvania. We covered interviews from his neighbor, his coworker, and then some of the documents about his during his time at Washington State University as a TA. But all right, guys, that's it for today. I'm going to go eat lunch. I hope y'all have a good one. You guys take care. Go outside, get some fresh air, and have a good rest of your weekend if I don't see you tomorrow. All right, y'all? I'll see you guys.